Hello, and welcome to this short talk on Ai Jiang's human AI novella, I Am I, or I Am AI. Um, Something different, a young author, contemporary author. She's still alive, still producing essays, and has recently written a novel. And has a very interesting take on the human AI cyborg uh, connection. She's a young woman, born in 1997 in Fujian, China, emigrated to Canada with her family when she was, I believe, 4 years old. Um, and a little different type of a writer than what we're accustomed to because Ai Jiang actually went to college more or less specifically to become an author of nonfiction, but also an author of fiction. So she studied English at University of Toronto, good school, and got a master's degree in creative writing from University of Edinburgh, um, and has been so successful in this scholarly way of becoming an author that she has been awarded numerous stipends, numerous scholarships for poetry and for her full-length novel, Ling Yun. I Am I came out in June of 2023, and it has 4.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is which is doing quite well, believe me. Um, uh, I have enjoyed listening to an interview about her and read some background, but I am by no means a competent scholar or expert on this author. But I did learn that in terms of contemporary writers, she likes Toni Morrison and Kazuo Ishiguro. And also, I found this intriguing. She said that in her writing now as a mature, well, relatively mature author, she focuses on society and politics. And I believe in this volume here, you can certainly get a notion of the politics that she could be concerned with. So let me quickly bring you into the world of I. Um, which in many ways, by the way, does mimic Ai Jiang's own life. I mean, of course, the character, the protagonist in the novel, and the author of the novel, they have the same name. Novel's written in the first person present tense, and we'll get back to that at the end. Um, uh, and she is a writer in the story, and she's a writer in real life, and actually has worked in a job similar to that of her protagonist. So, but she has an interesting marketing niche, and that is that she is a contract writer. In other words, she gets offers to write stuff on her phone, but she poses as an AI, which means that her writing is maybe a bit more human, a bit more lively. So the client base that she has cultivated believe that she is an AI, and yet at the same time, um, she's not. So they're enjoying the writing of a real human being. And that AI versus human thing, that gets played back and forth quite vigorously in this short novella, or as the trade papers call it, a novellette. So, uh, in the world of I am AI, she's a contract writer who poses as an AI writer. And she has decided to enhance her cyborg body to work more efficiently. We get this from the very first chapter that she is going to replace her heart. It's easy to hop over it, but you see it at the end. So, but when her heart is replaced with a mechanical pump, um, her clients abandon her. Some of them complaining that, well, this is just like all the other AI crap, so I might as well go to a cheaper service. But what is more, she also notices a loss of her feelings. She misses the pulse of the blood. She acts callously with people who formerly meant a great deal to her. I'm thinking of Nemo in particular. Her friend Hermes at some point shows her a painting of her neighborhood with the honeycomb, and nourished by Auntie Narwani's chicken soup in the next to last chapter, she decides to try to buy back her heart, but she ends up ordering a real human heart just to enjoy being more human again. So it's kind of a parable. It's um, from my perspective, it is the work of a young author, idealistic in its way. Ideals are bantered about. It's sort of categorical. But let's look at some of the art behind it, and that is this comparison of the battery charge on her implanted wristwatch, which is in her skin, equaling her life force. At one point, she says that if she dies, she actually dies from her batteries running out, and it gets awfully close at one point. She almost does pass away. Also, she gets her electricity while she is at work. So she has to go to work to literally to live. That is where her life force comes from. But when she comes back to her neighborhood at the honeycomb via Bluetooth connections and whatnot, um, she shares the power with well, Auntie Narvani. She charges Auntie Narvani's antique clock. Nemo's drone that the child enjoys flying around. Other people depend on her just to keep the lights on. Interestingly, by the way, the story is placed 1,000 years in the future from 2022, so it's 3022. Um, I has no biological relationships in the plot. There is reference to an aunt who has passed away, become a what's called a roach. I'll get to that in another slide. But Auntie Narvani is not her real aunt. Nemo is not her real daughter or niece. Um, there is an extended community that she is supported by and that she supports, but it is not a biological family. So it is an extended family based upon the community where they live. Um, Now, her development and decisions are contingent upon her being able to work more efficiently and uh, ultimately on her need to have a sense of belonging that she realizes largely thanks to her friend and sort of co-worker Hermes. And Hermes is the Greek name for the messenger. I think a little bit of name symbolism can be is present here as well. Uh, okay. More of the world of IMI, going through the entities that are mentioned but not overly discussed or developed. New Era, Emit, which is the name of the city, um, the Honeycomb, which is her neighborhood, the Mao Tu Ying, which actually means a barn owl in Chinese, and also Jones Shop. These are settings, if you will. Um, but over everything is this corporate era, this corporate entity, New Era. Um, it sounds a lot like a monopoly of sorts that controls everything. I'm thinking of the company store back when people were working as sharecroppers and whatnot. But regardless, it has a very strong hold over the society. And it's a major employer, although if you get a job with them, you work for 15 hours a week. It builds most of the housing. It imposes debt, which can be inherited. In fact, one of the reasons that Ai has to work so hard is she inherited her parents' debt. Um, and it may have a constabulary function, but even if it doesn't, it definitely has a disciplining function because they have cameras everywhere. They see who you hang out with, um, enabling them to apportion who should be paying whose debt, if nothing else. And then we have emit. Now this is kind of like the city on the hill or the Emerald City in Oz, in that we it's there, but we never visit it. But nevertheless, it does exist as a presence in the narrative. Now, just it occurs to me, and I'm just going to say it, it is the word time backwards. Maybe there's some connection there. Emit means to give out. There is a scene where it is lit by emergency generators and looks kind of orangey and on fire. So it does give out, yeah, it has that sight anyway. The honeycomb uh, is actually quite significant here. Now, honeycomb is where, the bees make honey and make more bees, and, it's a procreative entity. It reproduces the means of production. It works as a location of furthering the aims of the society. Um, and the way that it is constructed, it's under a highway overpass, so you think homeless people right away. It's improvised units that are stacked on each other that are connected by ladders. If you've ever enjoyed Klein's Ready Player One, it's a little bit like the non-virtual environment there. Within this housing project, she has an 11-foot by 11-foot room. I'm guessing that's 3 by 3 meters and a little more. Not so big, 10 square meters. Um, and it's also it ends up being the core of her identity. Takes Ai a while to realize it, but by the end, she understands it, and well, she should. She's providing her neighbors with power that she brings home from work, and it also takes care of her in the end. Um, and it was Hermes's painting of this neighborhood that convinces Ai to return to being a human, to have a heart, human heart, um, uh, and also Hermes sells the painting of this neighborhood in order to earn money to give to Ai to help relieve her debt, and it turns out helping to fund her new human heart. Um, but at the very least, it also is clear at the end that this honeycomb neighborhood was of such interest to New Era that by the end they are advertising it as a new hip neighborhood where you can live. Now they'll probably build nicer ones or different ones that they have more control of and they can charge rent for, but nonetheless, yeah, it's an interesting example of co-optation. Then you have the Mao Gang, the internet cafe environment where Ai does her work. She plugs in. It's a secure environment. It's monitored by the cigar chomping old cuss named Wu Shui, which means he's always there. And he also does take care of his steady clients. And he does have a special warm spot for I believe. Another setting that we don't see very much of is when she goes to get her heart replaced by a pump. She goes to Joan's shop. Um, and this is the clinic where the heart replacement occurs. And what might be sort of curious is that it's dark, but I doesn't worry about Joan's ability to see because they have enhanced eyes, enhanced eyeballs, so they can work quite effectively in in reduced light. Reminds me a little bit of where um, Anderton got his new eyeballs in Minority Report. Um, and then you have just a couple of passing references. I didn't find all of them, but most of it's on page 29, where there are these things called roaches. Now, a roach in Norwegian is a kakerlake. It's a bug. It's usually associated with unclean areas. They like the oily places behind stoves in particular, or they can do. Um, but these are people who have to apply to New Era to get a permit to go out and dig in the garbage dumps for trash. Um, uh, so being a trash picker becomes a type of a job. Um, Efficient in its way. You don't have things wasteful, but there's also a reference to there being a new law that you can't throw out anything. So now you're going to have a whole class of people that aren't going to have anything to eat. Um, the characters in the world of in the world of IMI are not very deeply developed. That includes I herself. It's a short narrative. Um, there isn't much in the way of a plot-based conflict or a crisis, except maybe, oh, I got my heart ripped out to be a better writer, but it turned out not to work, so I have to put my heart back. Um, so my point here is that none of the characters are really developed in depth. I think in terms of the visual element, Auntie Narvani is probably the most fleshed out. We know that she loses teeth. She's only 70, but she looks 100. Um, then we have a child figure that the community has provided with a drone to fly around and look at things, and uh, we don't really we don't really get a sense of this child very much, except that he or she is an annoyance. And then we got Wushui, who's we do learn that he chomps on a cigar and he laughs in a couple of different ways. There's that aspect, but. And then there's Hermes, and we learn more about Hermes's studio than we learn about Hermes. We don't know what color hair, we don't know how tall she is, we don't know any of that. But we know about the painting, and we know about all the watercolors on the beautiful table there. And then, then we have the only figure who has non-standard pronouns, and this could be Ai Jiang's gesture in the direction of her own politics. But Joan is, first of all, they are portrayed in a wife beater, and that's those T-shirts that don't have any sleeves, and go down here. I happen to be wearing one right now, but I'm not gonna open my shirt. Don't worry. Um, and there's not a lot of elegance involved here. But the relationship between I and Joan is a little bit like going to the dentist. It's like, oh, well, you haven't been maintaining your batteries very well, and you've turned off the warning signals, and it's going to cost you. But at any rate, they do come to an understanding. Actually, to the point where I is on the cusp of having her brain replaced, but of course she retreats before that stage. All right. Um, Now, Ai Jiang, in an interview, says that this is a cyberpunk novelette, cyberpunk novella. And it could be, but there's an awful lot of her, and I mean the physical Ai Jiang, Canadian science fiction writer, born in 1997. There's an awful lot of that I in this I. Um, so the job is analogous to writing as a ghostwriter, and writing is the central activity of the work. Way more than eating, way more than walking, way more than anything else. Okay, now how does this ghostwriter thing work? Well, basically, I have a buddy that did this in the early 2000s. And the way it works is you have a feed, and it'll say, okay, I want a 500 word record review, and then all the people on the feed outbid each other to see who can go lowest to get the job. And I was told by my buddy Christoph, who was doing this, that sometimes you would bid down to $1. Right, to write a 500 word article in like Kirkus Review or something like that, which I find absolutely crazy. But it just goes to show that even at that time, ghostwriting did not pay very well. Highly competitive, at least in the New York City area where my buddy lived. Now, the novel is also written in a style that I'm not used to, or rather, when I read it, I react to it, and it's all in the present tense, and generally fiction is in the preterite, but it's all in the present tense. And another novel, and I will share this for you in class. Another novel that has a similar style is Suzanne Collins's The Hunger Games. Um, and also the whole arrangement with New Era and being compelled to do stuff, and let's not forget the importance of community. I don't know if you've read the Hunger Games, but yeah, it's ultimately, at least the first volume, is ultimately about solidarity. Uh, and also, in closing this short talk, I am struck by the thematics of a work that came out in 2023, cycling through a similar thematics as what arguably was the first science fiction blockbuster ever, and that is Fritz Lang's 1927 film Metropolis. A couple of similarities. One is that we have a female figure, very central to the plot, who is a robot, and she was made in the image of a scientist's ex-girlfriend, well, girlfriend, and she passed away. So there's that. And at the end of the film, I'm not going to go into the plot because it's rather involved, but at the end of the film, we have the notion of the heart and the head, right? And how they have to be unified to keep society in balance and to keep the individual in balance. Let's not forget. I mean, I am I. I am. The individual subject is front and center in this narrative. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention. That's all I have for you today. Um, and I hope you got something out of this talk, and I sincerely hope you enjoy reading and rereading Ai Jiang's novelette. Bye for now.